All right, I've welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, October 10th, 2022. If you're not done so already, give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, a pretty quiet day, all things considered. Even though we made new 52-week lows on the triple Qs, we did make new lows, but we did come off of it. And really the last probably 2-3 hours, we've just been sideways here. A lot of what this looks like is a Monday OPEX pin. So really kind of 360, 361. SPY's just basically been pinned there. Triple Qs, you see that between the 266 and 267 handle. So it really just looks like a pin here. Remember, the bond market is closed today. So, you know, really the driving force, you know, the dog, that's the SPY is like the tail, right? And the bond market is the dog that wags it. And really that is closed right now. Now, bonds are still getting hit. They're actually, you know, you can see the TLT here is negative on the day, down 1.5%. 2-year futures are open, and, you know, that is down 2 basis points. Nothing crazy, but it is getting hit here. Usually when the bond market is closed, you give the market, you know, the stock market, an upside bias. They say kind of when the cat's away, the mice will play. That type of a deal here. But for what it's worth, you know, we are down 0.5%, but we are nicely off the lows. We did basically test, you know, we'll call this a test candle here. You know, you basically hit that. Didn't quite get to gap fill, but it looks to me like the shorts jumped in and covered ahead of that. Really, you know, everybody's looking at that gap fill. Everybody wants to cover at that gap fill. And, you know, some of them just went ahead and say, hey, we're just going to cover now, you know, 75 cents or whatever above the lows. So, you know, just getting it out of there and front running it. We do have economic data. So I do think in the next couple of days, you know, we did make a test candle today, and you see the triple Qs here again, new lows. And, you know, again, a test candle coming off the lows there. But we do have economic data on Thursday. Actually, we have PPI Wednesday as well. And then CPI, obviously the big number, on Thursday. So I think things can quiet down here in the market. We'll put our trend lines back on here. As you see, we did breach that low again. But I do think we can quiet down here in the next couple of days, just as the market kind of, you know, jockeys for position ahead of that. I don't expect there to be too much movement. Maybe you could make an upside move here back to that daily 20 moving average. You know, and then on the downside, it's really, we're very close to that 360 handle here on the triple Qs, which takes you back to, really, this is 2 years ago. So 9/21/2020, that's that week, the 9/21 week from 2020. And we're basically, you know, just past that right now in October. But that is a pretty important level there as well. That would take you probably to that. Take a look on the monthly here. Let me check the, yeah. So we're into that 50-month moving average right now. But yeah, a lot of support in that area. And again, I still think that we are headed lower here. But in the meantime, doesn't mean you can't get a little bit of a bounce here, especially as things quiet down ahead of CPI. Market's really going to be waiting on that later in the week. You see the spiders here also catching a bounce. Again, basically just stuck in this area. This definitely looks like an OPEX pin to me. Even Tesla, look at this. I mean, up, down in the morning and then sideways all day long. Definitely indicative of some OPEX pinning. So let's not make too much out of today's price action. We'll give the bulls a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, although I just think it's mainly short covering that happened today. But for what it's worth, the lows did get defended, and we did not close below them. In fact, the DJI here as it actually, it just turned negative, but it was actually green for most of the day here. So the Dow actually was scratching out a gain. We'll see what it closes at. Market closes in about 10-12 minutes. So either way, it's holding up okay. Let's not make too much out of today's action. We did hit the lows here, though, and we did get a test. You see the Russell 2000 there via the IWM, only down 50 cents. So it's hanging in there for now. But to me, it's really all eyes on PPI and then obviously CPI later in the week. Let's get into some sectors here. So semiconductors, again, showing some weakness here, down almost 3% on the day. That did make new 52-week lows, and it is off the lows right now, but this is going to close at a new 52-week low here for the day. So semiconductors continuing to get hit to the downside. AMD down again as well, although it is off the lows. Let's take a look at Intel. Yeah, Intel down 1.5%. And NVIDIA down 2.5% as well, making new 52-week lows as well. So again, semiconductors on the weak side, and you guys know I never like to see that. Just never a good sign to see the semiconductors leading to the downside, but that's what they're doing right now, and we definitely have to respect that. IGV, same exact thing here, so new 52-week lows there as well, down 2.5%. It is trying to finish off the lows, but again, just a weak chart and a weak candle here on the day. On the other hand, the Dow Transports, other leading indicator, actually holding up okay. So Dow Transports actually green, up 64 basis points currently as we get into the 350 time frame here. So this is actually showing a little bit of strength coming off the lows there and really not even getting anywhere near that 12,000 handle. Now, I still think this rolls over with everything else, but for right now, it's holding up okay. Let's take a look here at it. We might have a trend line we can even draw in on the DJT. So right about there. So we'll continue to watch that. If you push up through that trend line, that could potentially get you to that 13.5 area. So that is your kind of bull case there for the transports and really for the market if you can get through that. And then again, the same thing on the SPY here. That would most likely coincide with this trend line down sloping back through the August highs as well. But yeah, Dow Transport's holding up okay, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. We talked about interest rates, 10-year base flat because of the bond market being closed, but we did look at the futures. You can even look at 10-year futures, also red. So again, bonds getting hit a little bit on their day off, but we'll see what happens when they resume trading tomorrow. Anyways, home builders here holding up as well. Again, we talked about this last week. They've been actually holding up a little bit better. And again, the XHB here up 0.5% here on the day. Same thing with ITB, up 10 basis points right now. So again, home builders, a little bit of a stronger sector right now. However, the VNQ continues its losing streak, down 80 basis points today. And really, you had that brief bounce there at that 618, and it's just continuing to plunge here. So now below that 77 handle, it looks like it's going to be on a closing basis. Again, new 52-week lows here for the VNQ. Really the next stop here, if this can't really recapture that 618, you're looking at that gap fill all the way down at 74, and then the 75 retrace at 70.75. So VNQ real estate really in a world of trouble right now here. The only real thing you can say for it is that it's so oversold that it's probably due for a bounce. But this is just an ugly chart any way you slice it. XLF, again, red with everything else. New low, no 52-week lows, so it's holding up again. A little bit of a test candle. It's hanging in there. Let's not make too much out of it. Broker-dealer is also testing that 20-day moving average and getting a little bit of a bounce off that. So again, let's not make too much out of that action. Just looks like a routine pullback there for XBD. All right, shifting over to crude. So crude coming back in a little bit, and I said, Friday is getting a little extended here. You're coming into this pivot zone. This was resistance, support, then it became resistance again twice. So you're getting close to that area. Nice reversal. It did stall out at this trend line, so we'll be interested to see what it does tomorrow. If it breaks back below, that should take you back down to that yellow trend line, maybe even in the low 80s. But if it can hold that, then you could possibly push up to that 200, 100 moving average necktie there on the daily. But nice little pullback there for crude, just a little extended here in the short term. But again, still holding up, and it's still a very strong sector, as is XLE, although again, kind of rejecting that little trend line there again as well. So we talked about that, possible little fake breakout. I do think this needs to pull back a little bit, and then it can put in a higher low and push higher. But I think it's really extended here in the short term. Same thing with XOP, again, backing off of that trend line. And the OIH as well, pulling back in as well, down 2% on the day. So again, a little bit of pullback here in energies, a little overbought. Just take a look at that move here. There's the OIH here, for instance, 200 to 250 in, basically a week and a half. So that's a pretty big thrust there. And it has to pull back in here moving forward. Anyways, nat gas, again, just kind of stuck in this range. This is not interesting to me until you break either 630 or above 721. So again, just stuck in this range, and this is ultimately still bearish chop inside of this down move. Again, targets here are still the same, 550, and then if you break above that, it's this upsloping trend line. But nat gas really kind of just stuck in a range today. Dollar index continuing to push higher. Again, still has kind of this little broadening pattern here. So we'll see if this pushes up. Can this go back up and test this upsloping trend line? If not, then your support is going to be right here at the lower trend line, which coincides with the 50 MA. Again, levels haven't really changed here, but dollar index green, and that is why the market is red today. Gold here, again, dollar up, gold down. So gold back testing this low here, which was the 52-week lows really of 2021. So we broke below that, and now we're back testing again, and that's basically where we're stalling out right now. We'll see where it opens up tomorrow. Maybe bonds get a bid tomorrow, and we get a bid off of that. But gold basically just back testing that area. GDX, also a little pullback pattern again, falling wedge breakout, nice little pullback there. So nothing terrible with the miners currently. They're still leading the metal, and then silver also basically pulling back to this trend line. We'll see if it tests it again. You know, you got pretty close to it today, but we'll see if it peaks below that and maybe gets down to that 50 moving average here tomorrow. But again, silver pulling back along with the rest of the metals. Platinum here, same thing, right into that 20 moving average, getting a nice bounce. I do like this pattern. I want to see this do a little bit more bacon in the oven for now, but it's hanging in there, and I'll continue to monitor that. But platinum obviously red with the rest of the metals, and then palladium here also having a fractional downside day as well, down just 8 basis points. Copper actually getting a nice little bid, so we'll see if this can put in a higher low and can consolidate. This can push above that channel, and that could take you back up to that 370 area. If not, then it's back down to 320 and possibly the lows there on spot copper. All right, so flipping over to Bitcoin, again, not a whole lot going on, and this thing has been remarkably, it's been remarkably dull. Really, I mean, you pushed above this trend line, and it's almost making me question whether this trend line's even any good. Just because you got a nice push through it, and then it's just been kind of lazily kind of correcting lower here ever since then. But again, if you get back below that, and if you take out, you know, 18,000, this has got some serious legs to the downside. The only reason I'll give it the upside bias for now is because are above this trend line and you're above that 18,000 area. And, you know, if you can confirm that and push higher, then again, same thing, 22.5, 23,000 on Bitcoin. But again, this has been remarkably boring to watch here over the last really month or so. And sorry about that. So that was, let me show you that again. I just realized I didn't have that chart up. But anyways, your upsloping trend line, or excuse me, downsloping trend line here, going back to the all-time high into the April pivot. And this is what we're looking at. You guys have seen it before. It's not like I've changed it, but anyways. All right, yeah, let's get back to the spiders here. Market's closing in a couple of minutes. Again, just stuck in this range. Looks like an OPEX pin here to close out Monday. Again, wouldn't rule out a little bit more of a bounce. We did have a test candle today. We passed the test for the most part. So market may quiet down just a little bit until we get to that CPI number, which is on Thursday. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow.